Hello and welcome to the IPAF webinar, Why is IPAF the leading provider of powered access training worldwide? We have some fantastic speakers for you today. We will hear from Paul Roddis, IPAF's training manager, Tony Warren, training manager for Sunbelt Rentals, and Steve Booker, Group MD of Kentech. Before we start, I would like to thank our sponsors, Hinoa and Gem1. We are going to now see a short video from one of our sponsors, Hinoa, before we start the webinar. So a big thank you to Hinoa for supporting this webinar. I'm now going to hand over to Paul Roddis, IPAF's training manager. Paul has been in the industry for over 20 years, 10 of which have been in training. Paul is responsible for the delivery and creation of all of IPAF's training courses. Paul is perfectly placed to answer the question, why is IPAF the leading provider of powered access worldwide? I'm now going to hand over to him to explain. Over to you, Paul.
Thank you very much, Giles. I, of course, have created a presentation to explain this. And it is quite a big question. I think undeniably, IPAF is the leading provider of powered access training globally. But that's not the question. The question is, why is that? So I want to start by briefly explaining what IPAF is of course, you might not know. So IPAF's the International Powered Access Federation. Got started 39 years ago in 1983. So IPAF have had a long time to get where they are. IPAF are a not-for-profit membership organisation and have a truly international team who support our members and stakeholders as we all promote the safe and effective use of powered access worldwide. We have over 1,600 members in over 80 different countries. Our members include 174 manufacturers, along with rental companies, training organisations, suppliers, contractors, and safety professionals. So clearly, as a pool of resource, knowledge and experience on powered access, IPAF is unique. What IPAF does is unique as well. IPAF works with local governments, health and safety bodies and stakeholders to influence legislation and help the powered access industry be a safer place to work. We create industry guidance, posters and toolbox talks to get the right safety information out there in the right way to the right people at the right time. We collect incident data, analyze it, and have been doing so for over 10 years. The results influence the safety messages, best practice guidance, and safety campaigns we publish. And of course, the training that we create. We have 625 training centres and 259 satellite training centres all over the world. Our training centres and instructors have to meet very high standards and are audited regularly so that we can prove that they maintain those standards. As an international organisation, IPAF operator training is designed and audited to international standard ISO 18878, but also conforms with country-specific and regional standards where they exist. And of course, by creating training to a standard, you can guarantee that it then meets the requirements of the regulations. So these are some of the reasons that we're the leading training provider for powered access training in the world. But there are more reasons. So I'd like to show you how IPAF training has progressed from way back in 2011. Now, starting in 2011, IPAF were already world leaders in training, and IPAF was already taking a very holistic approach to training. So you can see this by the training that was available right back then. So for MEWPs, we didn't just have operator training, we had training for the demonstrator, the person that would familiarize the operator on the equipment, training for harnesses, because you need to use a harness in a boom, and very importantly, training for managers. We also had some mass climbing work platform training, but again, not just operator, demonstrator, installer, and advanced operator. When we moved to 2013, IPAF introduced an advanced operator course called PAL Plus, which is, I should point out, very challenging to pass because it's designed to be used by people that will be in higher risk and more challenging environments. So we need to know that they are the best. In 2016, we bridged the gap between pre-use inspection and statutory inspection in the form of pre-delivery inspection, or PDI. And when we get to 2017, here IPAF were leaders in increasing the flexibility for learners and training centres with the landmark release of operator e-learning. Come 2019, a brand new MEWPs for managers was released and made available as e-learning with facial recognition. Facial recognition made this incredibly accessible and convenient for managers, planners, supervisors, and safety professionals to be able to take this training at the speed they wanted to take it with never having to actually go to a training centre at all. So that's really significant. At the same time, the first hoist course became available after requests from our members. So again, we had operator, demonstrator, and trainer. Come 2020, this saw the culmination of years of development of the virtual reality simulator, and IPAF authorised use of the VR simulators to assess the advanced operator PAL Plus training. This was closely followed in 2021 with authorisation of virtual reality simulators to assess experienced operators renewing licenses. And this corresponded with both PAL Plus and renewal becoming available as e-learning, which again creates greater flexibility. In addition, the statistics showed that selecting the wrong MEWP often is a significant contributor to incidents. So we responded by creating a site assessment for MEWP selection training course. We responded to another clear industry need, and this saw the creation of CAP, our Competent Assessed Person programme for mass climbing work platforms and also for hoists. And acting partly on ideas for sharing safety information directly, a real groundbreaker in ePAL. So ePAL is an electronic license, logbook, and a store of safety information along with being access to incident reporting right in an operator's hand. And of course, this is a fantastic tool for employers to monitor competence, because this is the one single place where you've got both the training and the experience. Now, we're in 2022, and already this year we've released a new training course called MEWP and Hoists for managers as a single training course, because most people that would need training on either a mast climbing work platform or a hoist would actually also need training on the other as well. And this, of course, continues our holistic approach and was a response to requests and ideas from our members. We're also privileged with this project to work with other experts from outside of IPAF, including CHIG, the Construction Hoist Interest Group. So as we move further through the year, the importance of familiarization needed to be readdressed because it's so critical to safe MEWP operations. So we do have an updated demonstrator course, and Tony will be talking about that a little bit later on. And something else that we explained later is our second most used training course, Harness, and that's getting a significant upgrade. Importantly, there'll be a standalone e-learning course for those that select, supervise and manage harness use, because we know that incorrect selection and unsafe use has been a contributor to the results of many incidents. So we will provide a convenient way for those people to access the right information. And finally, digitization. So this is, of course, a huge project, but it'll be an improvement for everyone. By connecting systems, we'll be reducing burden, reducing error, reducing waste, and increasing speed. Now, you'll be able to see certain parts of this project being rolled out even before the end of this year. So that's an awful lot of things been happening. So what does it now look like in 2022? Well, what you can see here is a huge range of training, and we in fact have a greater range of powered access training than anyone else in the world. And this allows us to provide a holistic solution to anyone and any organization that uses or allows the use of powered access. So there, of course, is another good reason why IPAF is the leading provider of powered access training in the world. But of course, anyone can create a training course. So what makes our training different? Well, to create a genuinely valuable learning experience, you've got to understand and apply very specific learning principles. Now, simply having correct information on a screen and telling people things is an ineffective method of training. So one of the principles that we apply within our training courses is what's called the revised cognitive domain. Now, on the left, we start with the lower order thinking skills through to the highest order of thinking skills on the right-hand side. So what you can see here is that remembering something is the lowest of the lower order thinking skills. Remembering something also means, of course, that you can forget it and you don't even have to understand it. So clearly, learning anything verbatim is almost entirely pointless. So of course, we have to make sure that the learner also understands. But that is nowhere near enough. Learners need to be applying their learning, and in some cases even analysing information, if we want them to be fully capable of applying their learning effectively in the real world for the next 5 years and beyond. Once we get right up the scale to evaluating and creating, we've actually gone beyond what's actually going to be useful for operator training, but these are skills we would want to see from a manager and planner. So those elements are incorporated into MEWP and Hoist for Managers, the new site assessment course, and of course, MEWPs for Managers training. So in addition to this, we incorporate the latest in learning neuroscience to maximize the efficacy of the experience. And this latest information ties together the previous theories and provides evidence of why these methods are effective and old passive training less so. For learning to be truly effective, we have to engage the learner, build new knowledge onto existing knowledge, and provide frequent opportunities to consolidate the learning. So we have to engage the frontal cortex through the brain's reward system. And a great way of engaging is through novelty. And I mean novelty in the sense of something unexpected and new to the learner. So visually stimulating, innovative and surprising training will capture attention and thereby increase the likelihood of a learner fully understanding and remembering what they need to. Once we have engagement, we need to build new knowledge, which requires activity here in the frontal working memory regions of the brain. New knowledge builds upon existing knowledge, so an instructor needs to know what existing new knowledge a learner has. When adding new knowledge, a candidate is using conscious thinking and reasoning, and this is called the working memory. But working memory has a very limited capacity. The amount of information coming into the active working memory is called cognitive load. And while this looks complicated because of the wording that's used, it's actually a very simple concept that must be considered if we want to create a useful training course. In basic terms, information coming in needs to be clear and not too much of it at a time, because the working memory has very little capacity. Distractions need to be minimized, as distractions prevent processing of the information coming in. And once the working memory is full, you can't add more without losing some of what you've put in. So you have to provide the tools to allow the candidates to process the information, and in so doing, integrate it with their existing knowledge. This integration of new knowledge with existing knowledge is consolidation, and this takes place through practice and rehearsal of freshly learned knowledge. This processing will quite literally shift and distribute activity from the conscious short-term working memory to other parts of the cortex and into the unconscious long-term memory. And this causes it to be automatically accessible and the brain's limited working memory freed up for more new knowledge. So a deep understanding of applying these principles is necessary to create the most effective training. And all updated or new IPAF training courses incorporate these principles. Now, I only speak English, so the first version of a new or updated training course is in English. And as our 884 training centres and satellites are spread across 56 different countries, that does bring some challenges from a language perspective. So as an example, our operator training course, we actually have 63 different versions in 14 distinct different languages and subvariants of those. So as you can see, for example, we have 5 French versions: Belgian French, Swiss French, Canadian French, French, and legislation neutral French. So what that also means is that our training is available in more places than anyone else and in more languages than anyone else. Now, obviously, this requires a lot of effort and resource, but it's well worth it, particularly when you look at this. So this is from 2011 to 2021, so a 10-year period. And what it actually represents is 1,573,998 people trained to operate MEWPs, MCWPs, or hoists safely and effectively. And that's clearly fantastic. But also, this is another unique advantage that IPAF has. With our access to this huge amount of global training data, along with global incident data, we're able to see beyond simple quantities and into implications. And that allows us to provide better advice around potential solutions to some of the real challenges out there. So as an important example, let's take a look at the MEWP training that we strongly recommend for managers, supervisors, planners, and safety professionals, MEWPs for managers, over the same period. So technically it doesn't look that bad, but of course it's pretty much meaningless like that. In order for you to make any use of it, I need to drop this data in with the operator data. And there it is. And I know it looks like I've made a mistake, but I haven't. Genuinely, that black line along the bottom is MEWPs for managers over the same period on the same graph to the same scale as the operator. So what are the real life implications of this? Well, what it means is for every one manager, supervisor, planner, and health and safety professional, there are 89 operators. So with our unique resources, we're able to see the consequence of this disparity. So this pie chart graph is part of the analysis of the incident data that I was talking about earlier. It shows underlying causes of fatal falls from the platform between 2011 and 2021. So looking at the list on the left, how many of these could be massively reduced or removed by effective planning, managing, and supervising by trained people? Well, the top 4 certainly. And just those top 4 account for 74%. Technical failure, possibly, and of course, unknown, who knows? But violation, overturn, and hit by vehicle are clear planning, managing, and supervision issues. So that means that at least 8 of those 10, and that's 87%, could be massively reduced or removed entirely by good training for managers, planners, supervisors. So clearly we're in a unique position to be able to pull this data together and to show the opportunity for reducing the consequences of these incidents. And by focusing on where there are clear opportunities, we can get ever closer to the ultimate goal of no falls from powered access. But of course, the only way this can be achieved is with a holistic approach to training, not just training operators, but everyone involved in the use of powered access. So as IPAF, we have created the training that allows you to train holistically. It's available in more places than anyone else. It's available in more languages than anyone else. And it was created by provable experts with access to information that no one else has. It uses the most up-to-date learning methodologies, and our training centers and instructors are provably excellent. And this training is genuinely interesting and enjoyable. So ultimately, it is that unique combination of elements that explains why IPAF is the leading provider of powered access training worldwide. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Very insightful. You've clearly been very busy since you started working with IPAF. It's great to see some really good courses coming out. We're now going to play a short video introducing IPAF's new Demonstrator course, and hopefully that should start playing now.
Familiarization of a machine is critical for MEWP safety. The ways in which machines operate can vary significantly, and anyone operating them needs to be shown what these differences are before use. IPAF's MEWP Demonstrator course teaches candidates how to conduct a familiarization and covers topics such as machine controls, manufacturer's checks, and emergency lowering procedures. The one-day course is designed for operators, delivery drivers, and site supervisors, or anyone who needs to familiarise other people with machines as part of their role. The course consists of a theory and a practical module with assessments. The theory module can be taken at an IPAF training centre or online as e-learning. Interactive screen graphics guide you through the latest advice about real-life scenarios, featuring a range of machines, from small electric scissors, tracked booms, to larger 40-metre booms. During the practical module and assessment taken at an IPAF training centre or on site, you'll apply the theory you've learnt to different machines. To take this course, you must already hold an appropriate PAL card MEWP operator licence. To book your demonstrator course, contact an IPAF training centre directly. For more information, visit ipaf.org/training.
That video was a perfect intro to our next speaker, who is Tony Warren from Sunbelt Rentals. Tony is the chair of IPAF's training committee and has been working in the powered access industry for 30 years. So a man with much experience. Tony's going to talk you through the demonstrator course right now. I'm going to hand over to Tony. Over to you.
So my name is Tony Warren from Sunbelt Rentals. I'm the training manager and the current IPAF training committee chair. I would just like to start just explaining a little bit about what the training committee actually do. So if we have, if you can move on to the next slide for me. The mission statement, as you can see, is to identify, develop and implement training solutions and effective quality controls to help promote the safe and effective use of powered access globally. We have a section for working groups. So basically we identify and develop, implement training solutions and effective quality controls to help promote the effective and safe use of powered access globally. Part of how we do this is to run a volunteer working groups. A working group is a group of experts that working together to achieve specified goals. Working groups are brought together for fixed short periods of time to work on very specific tasks. These groups work on topics of strategic importance determined by the committee members. Members of the working group have required skills of experience to benefit meetings of meeting the objectives of the working group itself. So it was a working group that created the new demonstrator course. If you can click onto the next page for me. The demonstrator working group, we had representatives from Sunbelt Rentals, Elevation, Nationwide Platforms, HSS, Advanced Access Platforms. We had an independent instructor, and we also had a retired ex-training committee chair. So the working group had a lead in Barry Brady from Elevation. Again, we had representatives from IPAF, including the training manager, audit manager, and the head of safety and technical, along with members that you can see in your screen in front of you. So the group had a huge range of experience and worked together to create what we believe is an exceptional training course. If anybody has run it already, you will see that we've completely changed the dynamic of the instructor course. It all began with determining what kind of aims that we wanted to provide on the new demonstrator course. If you can click to the next page for me. So the main aims was to bridge the gap between training on small, uncomplicated MEWPs and being able to be familiarised on anything up to and including ultra booms. So, for example, complex spider types and 103 metre truck mounts. So to train a person to take full account of the complexity of the MEWP, to provide guidance for timeframes and minimum items covered in familiarisations, to provide an overall methodology that can be used for all familiarisations, and to provide clarity on what a demonstrator will do and will not do. So as you ultimately, the demonstrator should not leave until the operator is generally familiar with the MEWP, and we didn't feel like it was being fulfilled on our previous course. So it was very important for us to determine the definition of what actually familiar actually meant. If you can click to the next page for me. So familiar, if you are familiar with something, you know or understand it well. That comes directly from the English dictionary. So this definition makes the most sense for the context itself. Operators should know or understand the MEWP well if the demonstrator has done his job well. With this in mind, we also needed a good definition of what a familiarization is. If you can click to the next page. So familiarization. Inside this definition, there is a very important term that says operating characteristics. So the provision of machine-specific information by a competent person to a potential operator, identifying the manufactured instructions and warnings, control functions, the operating characteristics, safety devices, and emergency recovery procedures. This comes directly from BS 8460, but has the same requirement within IS 18878. That means that the operator should be familiar not just with what he does, but on how he does it, how quickly, how it feels, when it does, so on and so on. So that gave us the main focus that we wanted, what we wanted to include in various innovative methods of imparting information that we have. If you can click onto the next one for me. So we would have seen this Meet Michael around for a few years now. So for example, we have a narrative running through to provide ongoing context in the form of Michael, who crops up every now and again. This is important because providing information is not an effective way for people to learn. Of course, we have to provide the information, but this is just a small part of how we actually teach somebody or how we give the information across. You can click to the next slide for me. So we've used some interesting ways of giving that information in small, interactive, and easily understandable amounts. We also felt that we wanted to show real life situations with real machines and set up a film that we needed to show real life complications. If you can click on for me. So we took 2 days at 2 different locations with a professional film company to capture the sequences that we needed. And we were very thankful for all the kind help that we got from the working group members, Sunbelt Rentals nationwide platforms Elevation, providing people, machines, and venues for that work. So it created some great results that allow us to use the best methods to promote learning. If you can click on to the next one for me.
I've got your machine here for you, mate. I'm sure you've used things like this before. It's pretty simple. The manual's right there. You don't need me to show you, do you?
No, I think I'll work it out myself, mate.
So just sign here, mate, to say you refuse the demonstration.
So just as something as simple as you can see from the demonstration that Barry gave, what are the implications of not doing a demonstration? Allowing the learners to make their own mind up about how well or bad something is conducted. And this was a good example of this. If you can click the video for me.
So what we've got here is the auxiliary pump. So you take that handle, it goes onto there. There are your low controls, your pump to bring it down. Now you can have a go.
Okay, so as you can see from both demonstrations, we've clearly showed that the same machine, one without any demonstrations, and the need for demonstrations, especially when it comes to lowering procedures. So that's just one item that we need to consider. So of course, we should show how it should be done, but to but what need to make sure that the people understand the differences. It's very clear in this example that obviously he did that the second time and not the first time. If you can click on to the next slide for me. So as you can see here, it says explain, demonstrate, and show. So for each control or feature, the demonstrator does three things. He should explain. The demonstrator verbally explains how the control or feature works. The demonstrator should then physically show the operator how to use the control or feature, and then he should show. He then hands the controls to the operator. He then asks him to have a go. The demonstrator will provide guidance and ask questions to ensure the operator fully understands. Click to the next one for me. Okay, guys, so a quick summary on what's been discussed. It was created by an experienced team from the elected training committee. It is available as e-learning or instructor-led. For anyone that wants to upgrade their operator license or would need to demonstrate a MEWP to anyone else. I have to apologize for my IT problems today. If you can click to the next section. Thank you very much, Jules.
Thank you, Tony. I think you got the message across really well, actually. So thank you very much, and you did great with the technical issues we had. Yeah, familiarization is integral to ensure competency of the operator, and I know the training committee are extremely proud of the new demonstrator course. So it's really important part of any operator's training and competency. We're now going to have a short video from our second sponsor, Gem 1, which should be running now. So again, a big thank you to Gem 1 for sponsoring this webinar. Without the support of our sponsors, these webinars would not be able to go ahead, so we really appreciate it. I'm now going to introduce our final speaker, Steve Booker from Kentech. Steve has decades of experience within the work at height industry and has presented numerous seminars and webinars about work at height, behavioural safety and safety issues. He's now going to talk to you about IPAF's up-and-coming harness course. Over to you, Steve.
Thank you, Giles, and thank you for the opportunity to speak at today's webinar. So excited about bringing this to you, as I always am, but challenged by the fact I've got 10-15 minutes, I think, to do it in, when normally I get on camera, I'm talking 30 minutes plus. So I'll do my best to get straight on with it. So If I may share my screen. And hopefully you can see the screen now.
Working fine. Working fine. Yeah, good to go, Steve.
Right, so the new IPAF harness training course, the main reason for amending this is that we've had a need to fill up a small issue within our harness training, namely in that people who come for the operator course quite often found out at that point that when using a boom type MEWP, they would be required to wear a harness. And many of them would leave the training centre after a day or two, successfully completing their operating course, but nevertheless still not fully qualified to don, adjust and pre-use inspect a harness. So we've amended the course to try and address that issue. So hopefully you'll see as we go through, the way it's graded now will fit that and add a lot more value to what we already exist. So the course itself basically has had some input from many people. Itself, we've got a team, including myself and my own company. We've got Sunbelt, who you've just spoke to Tony there. He's had a lot of input into it along with his company. Paul Harrington from Harrington Safety, HSS and Spanset themselves. And we've also had some technical input as well from UK and our friends in Uruguay and Mexico. So there's been a lot of people involved in this course, and hopefully when you see the finished article, you'll feel that it's been well worth it. So grading itself, the course itself will be available in 3 grades. Now, those grades will be an awareness course. Now, the awareness course itself will be available on an e-learning or classroom-led basis. A user grade, which will include a practical assessment, and then finally an additional grade, which will include formal inspection. So just going through them bit by bit, the prerequisite for the harness awareness course, there will be none. It will be for the raw learner, and we will teach them from the ground upwards about many sections like the legislation involved, the standards around the use of harnesses, general FPE selection for use in MEWPs, the types of harnesses, lanyards and connectors they should be using. We'll look at the use of them as far as the anchor points are concerned within MEWPs. Pre-use inspection being a very important part for every user and is often overlooked when it comes to the use of harnesses within MEWPs. We'll also be looking at some of the basic things like storage, but most importantly, how to put a harness on properly and adjust it correctly. Again, I've experienced on many occasions walking up to an operator of a MEWP with harnesses on upside down. So again, working on the basis that these people may have passed an operator course but haven't formally passed a harness awareness course. So this is why this is a very important part of the training that IPAF offered. So method of delivery will be available as an e-learning platform or classroom-led, you know, instructor-led. So it fulfills both needs there. The duration will be a minimum 3 hours because that's what we feel is required to get that information across. We'll also be looking at who should attend in 2 parts. The first one will be those that are just needing an awareness. So it could be those that select, those that manage people operating in harness, so they have an understanding of the basics of what they should be seeing, what they should be advising, what they should be doing when they're selecting harnesses. In addition to that, those people that want to progress on to be a qualified and competent user of a harness in a MEWP, so they can carry on with the pre-use inspection and have some qualification that will be recognised. Those people would sit the awareness side first. Now, moving on to the next level, which would be our harness user, or HU, as it would be dictated on the certification card. Those will have had to have successfully completed the awareness course, whether it be classroom or e-learning prior to. Again, this is not a formal classroom or e-learning course. This is an assessment that what's been learnt on the awareness course has actually been remembered, and can be demonstrated. Now, again, any formal training around competence will require an assessment. That way we can actually tick a box and say this person has demonstrated they understand how to carry out a pre-use inspection, how to put a harness on correctly, adjust it correctly, and understand where you should connect the harness and lanyard and connector when entering a MEWP. So duration, it's as long as it takes to basically do that practical assessment by the instructor. We see that as something that can be added into an existing operator course as a short assessment. Now, many of the people that have sat operator courses already, and many of you out there as instructors, will know that there is a few minutes prior to actually going to the MEWPs where you'll invite your trainees to put a harness on for the actual training session and the assessment within a boom type MEWP. So it's at that point where we can assess pre-use inspection, put the harness on, show me how to assess, how to adjust it, and more importantly, when you do get into the MEWP, without prompting, show me where you would attach it. So again, it's a solid assessment of what they've learned either e-learning or in a classroom on the awareness course, and it will enable us to upgrade the awareness to a user. So anyone who uses a MEWP should be looking to go to at least the harness user grade, or HU. Of course, if you wish then to go on to the formal inspection, then we would require you to have sat the awareness and satisfied the assessment under the user before you can move on to the actual harness inspection. So the harness inspection, as it says there, prerequisite would have been successfully completing both of those courses prior to that. The method, again, we're back in the classroom because this one involves more in-depth practical training and assessment. Because one of the issues that come up when you're dealing with formal inspection is what is wear and tear, what is acceptable, what is not acceptable. And this is difficult to train and assess without being more tactile. So we need to put this in front of people. So the formal inspection course will be a classroom-based course for those that have successfully completed the prior two grades. So again, minimum 3 hours, and the content will include, again, legislation requirements, certainly standards. We'll talk about the types of inspection that should be carried out by both operators and those doing formal inspections. We'll talk about record keeping. We'll talk about how equipment should be stored, how it should be moved around. We'll talk about age and obsolescence of it, and common types of damage that might be seen on a formal harness inspection. So again, by the time they finish this course, we would be confident on successfully completing that person could then go back to the workplace and complete a formal inspection of a harness, lanyard and connection, primarily for use in MEWPs. It will not include some of the stuff on the periphery of fall protection equipment. We are primarily looking at that equipment that is used in MEWPs, although the instructors that are dealing with this no doubt will have information they can add if needed. So again, those people that are carrying out formal inspections would be required to sit this course, and I'm confident it will be one of the better ones out there at the moment, unless you go for the really kind of comprehensive fall protection equipment inspection courses that often last 2 or 3 days. So prerequisite, as far as an operator course goes, you won't have to have completed a harness course to enter an operator course, the same as it is now. And this is mainly due to the fact that while under the instruction and care of a qualified instructor, an operator can be, if you like, put a harness on, and this can all be checked by the instructor. The instructor can make sure it's formally adjusted correctly and the correct attachment point is being used. So that negates any uncontrolled risk during an operator course. However, should an operator wish to gain a harness qualification at a user level whilst doing their operator course, if they had sat a classroom awareness course or the e-learning version of the awareness course prior to attending their operator course, then with that short assessment of pre-use inspection, donning, adjustment and anchoring, the instructor could qualify them off as moving from awareness to a user grade, which would mean they'd leave the training course that day, hopefully successfully completing whatever category they decided to attend for, with the additional qualification of harness user. So we feel this is a major step forward in the safe use of harnesses on MEWPs, because we know there's many people that have successfully completed their operator training that have not had formal harness training. So this will fill that gap. And again, as Paul mentioned earlier on, we as IPAF are continually monitoring how we meet the needs of our trainees and doing our best to make sure that we are the leaders when it comes to training, both on MEWPs and on the skills that are required around the periphery of the use of MEWPs. So this will allow the upgrade. Now, throughout the course, as we've been creating it, as I said, we've had several people, several parties, several companies all contributing to this. The current stage is that we have done a lot of filming. We are working with a team on animations. So I'd like to show you a few slides, if I may, of some of the live film, some of the animations that we use in some of the still pictures to give you a flavour of what you will be expecting to see. So as you see from this one, we've done some good live film. This particular one demonstrates how wearing a short restraint lanyard within a large platform scissor can actually create a problem in that we have blind spots that we can't monitor as an operator. So as you see, going back, can't see down immediately behind. So we end up with a problem similar to this as been shown on some of the operator courses in the past as a problem. Beyond that, anchoring itself is a major problem. So may have jumped to there by mistake. Let's try again with those ones. So again, suitable anchorage. We've done a lot of live filming, as Tony mentioned in the Demonstrator course. So anchorage points within the basket of a MEWP, they do vary in design and position. And what we've tried to demonstrate is that you must be open to adjustment. So again, a large unit. And then some of the smaller units, again, you may have a higher, lower anchor point. So again, the need for adjustment. So what we've done throughout the course is try to use live film where we can, and when we can't use live film purely because it would put a situation, if you like, where an operator potentially could be at risk. We've had to go with the animation. So imagine we couldn't do this as a live film. I don't know whether it would be Tony in the basket, but I don't think it'd been presented today if that would have been the case. And similar, again, another common one, standing on the guardrail, seen it way too many times, and it can result in catastrophic injury or death. So we don't want that either. So I'm hoping that this new harness course will be available by the end of the year. And with that, that's basically what I've got to say about it at the moment. So thank you, Giles, and I'll pass back to you if I may.
Thank you very much, Steve. As you say, we're all hoping that the harness course will be delivered before the end of the year. No pressure, Paul, and no pressure, Steve. But no, I'm really looking forward to seeing that course. It looks great. We have had a few questions come in, but we are running right to the close to the end of time, so we're going to answer those questions separately. As you can see, IPAF does not just cover operator training, it covers every single element of the use of a MEWP. A list of all of our training courses can be found on the IPAF website, so I'd encourage you to go and have a look there. I'd really like to thank my speakers, Tony, Steve and Paul. Thank you for a fantastic job. And our sponsors, Hanoa and Gen1. Thank you very much, and I hope everybody has enjoyed this webinar. Goodbye.